Hello. Hello. Welcome to the Bad Chess Podcast. I am your host, the current reigning and defending third worst chess player on Kick, Katie215. And everybody, when I started this podcast, everyone told me that a podcast needs at least 5 episodes before people will start to take it seriously. And here we are, episode 5. It's very exciting. Episode 5. We can start promoting now. We couldn't promote for whatever reason. Companies won't let you promote before you got 5 episodes. So here we are. We got 5 episodes tonight. I mean, we don't have 5 yet, but at the end of this, there will be 5. And we saved an awesome guest for episode 5. I can see her. You all can't see her. I can see her right now. And Newhart. Can't forget. Just trust me, guys. Tonight's guest once gave an interview where she said your environment and your success is measured by what you contribute to the world. So even if you're not working your dream job, you should be doing your dream job. My dream job was to retire young and wealthy, and obviously that didn't happen for me. But I try to fake it till I make it. Well, from an early age, Leslie Carrara-Rudolph dreamed of being on Sesame Street. She's on the record saying that a lot of the characters from the show were already living in her head and how she could relate to them and understood their imagination and their wonder. Having had the privilege of watching this woman perform, I can say that the life she brings to her characters is nothing short of magical. From her earliest Muppet appearance as Spamela Hamderson to over 17 years as Abby Cadabby on Sesame Street, Leslie has helped bring magic to the lives of children and adults all over the world. Aside from all of her Muppet and Sesame Street duties, Leslie, with the assistance of her friend Lolly Lardpop, finds the time to work with children and teenagers, helping them to wake up their weird and find the confidence and self-esteem to believe in themselves. Tonight, we are very lucky to have with us the talented and magical Leslie Carrara-Rudolph. Leslie, hi.
Wow, that was amazing. Newhart, give him the way.
This is what I was dealing with this, guys, while I was trying to do that, so.
That was, wow. Thank you.
You have a Newhart fan, by the way, in chat already. Just putting that out there.
Newhart, we just finished doing a bunch of, the Dystonia Foundation, which a lot of people don't know what dystonia is, but it's a really rare disease. Let's start with disease, shall we? But it's a very rare disease that it's in all different age groups and everything, and it can overcome you at any time. Carol Spinney, a lot of people didn't realize, had dystonia towards the end. And so anyway, we got involved with that foundation for the last 3 years. During COVID, they needed help with content for their younger audiences. So Lolly and Newhart and myself kind of chimed in, and they asked us, they're doing service dog videos. So Lolly and Newhart did service dog videos. It's pretty funny. So we did a bunch of those. Right?
So you are, in my opinion, you are like a classical type of variety performer, the likes of which doesn't exist anymore. You are funny, you can sing, you do character work. Like this
kind of variety.
Yes. Yes. The vaudevillian, slapsticky.
I had to get these online. They don't sell them anymore.
What, funny glasses?
Yeah, they didn't know what these were. These Groucho Marx glasses. I went into Spirit and they had no idea what I was talking about. I added the candy corn.
Oh, I was going to say, did they come with the candy corn nose?
No, I made that.
So Leslie, just so you understand the complexity from my point of this podcast, I am literally doing total inside, not for anybody else, Tom's job and Frank's job and everybody's job in the world on this. Like, I'm controlling stuff with my feet, with my hands, oh yeah, it's crazy. It's all sorts of craziness. So
me too.
Just full disclosure, I've known Leslie now 17 or 18 years. I met you for the first time on the set of a show that didn't last long. It was called Johnny and the Sprites. We were just talking about that. It was Johnny and the Sprites was such a great show.
it's one of my favorites. And Ginger was fantastic, Ginger Sprite, and she was kind of like a skinned knee like me. She was totally rough and tumble, and the music on that show was incredible. One of the my favorite songs I've ever done or pieces ever done was on that show called Muddle in the Puddle. And it was beautiful. It was like Ginger's like she didn't like who she was. She caught a glimpse of herself or something, and she started self-judging, and it was really heartbreaking but beautiful because her friend Basil's like, "We love you," and Johnny. It was so great, but it was shot beautifully. And Sean, he did the whole thing. That I think maybe um only made 2 or 3 episodes Sean didn't shoot on the jib. It was beautiful.
So Johnny and the Sprites was a single camera, just so everybody knows. It was a
Yeah.
single camera show shot very, film-esque. And the Sean she was talking about was the jib operator, Sean Harkins. He is just a legendary jib operator.
I
He
have
does Sesame Street as well.
Look, I have visuals even though you're listening. So that's Basil coming up to Ginger, and then that's Ginger. The camera is underneath, and she's looking down through a reflection. And at the very end of that song, she puts her finger in the puddle and it goes like this. And it's so touching. It's just so it's one of my favorite shows. And plus it was just pure joy to work on. I'm a musical theater person, so I loved being able to sing all those incredible songs. So it was fun.
So you obviously you now have a rich history with the Muppets and Sesame Street. Your first introduction to that world was Spamela Hamderson on Muppets Tonight, which that was. Can you explain that role? How did you come into Spamela Hamderson? Was a pig representation of Pamela Anderson from Baywatch.
Yeah, she was a pig and with no neck and hooters. So, yeah, can I explain that?
Yeah.
Well, guess what? It was created by a male writer. What a surprise. No, I'm just kidding. I also did Darcy and Angry Rocker. That was kind of like that. So there was, she was a lot of fun. I mean, I that show was like falling down a rabbit hole because I had never into like a world like you know my degree is child development through the arts. So it's child psychology, therapeutic recreation, theater arts. Therapeutic recreation is like when you design programs for kids at risk, foster homes. Yeah, welcome to Queens. Sorry, I don't know if you heard that honk, but you know, hospitalized kids, different environments. And so the puppets that I made were sock puppets or slippers or very immediate or out of dryer hoses and characters. I would just reach kids through characters. So I'd written a show called Life in Other People's Shoes, and I would cartoon the characters. I'd go into them and sing and write stories for them because I love characters more than anything. So when I auditioned for the Muppets, it was a cattle call for female comedians who do voices and can sing in character. And I had no idea what I was doing. I didn't have a computer. I didn't have a cell phone. I didn't have, it was back in the day where people had beepers, right? So I never knew how people did stuff, and I'm like a child of wonder. So when I watched the Muppets, I just believed them to be characters. I didn't think I didn't think about how they came to life. Some people just studied it, got certain books and stuff, but I was just like, I'm a believer. So when I got on set, I was like, oh, I'm going to be fired any second because it's a whole nother art form above your head. And making put your heartbeat in your hand and trying to make somebody care about something on your hand. It was a huge learning curve. Bill Beretta just took a huge chance on me, and so did Brian. They said she has characters, and Kevin was like, what am I gonna do with her? Ow, that was painful. Did you hear how loud that was?
You did hear that? But look, obviously the gamble worked off, right? I mean, it worked out. I mean, you are amazing at puppetry. I think it's because you're amazing with the characters. No, stop. You know,
Well, I have to tell you, Jerry Nelson got me through that show because um I'm a messy performer. Like I try everything, and I still feel like I s- still feel you and I were talking about how you feel it's your first day. I always feel like that. It's my first day. So, but Jerry was really awesome because he got to know me as a person. He asked, I had two HBO Workspace shows during Muppets Tonight, you know, right up the street. I was doing my work and stuff. And, but people didn't know that I had this whole other life, doing outreach and doing theater and stuff. So, I just was I just sat on set and I watched everybody and I had a monitor in my room and I just practiced and practiced because I thought I was going to be fired pretty much every day.
you know, the weird thing about Muppets Tonight, if I recall correctly, that was really the first time the Muppets came out and did anything after the passing of Jim Henson.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. As far as a television show, I think. Right.
sure.
Yeah.
And it was weird because, you know, they didn't have all of the original cast. We're going to get to that in the trivia section later, by the way. Because, you know,
No!
they, you know, because it was still too soon and too fresh in people's hearts. So that's got to be, I always tell people that the weirdest thing about Sesame Street is it doesn't matter how many years you've been on the show, you're the new person. When you have people that have been on the show since season 1 still there, and you're coming in at season 35, 36, you're the new kid.
Yeah.
Even though it's been 20 years since then, you're still the new kid.
Yeah.
That it's got to be that same way walking into that environment, you know, with
Oh man. Are you talking about Muppets
What
Tonight?
about Muppets Night? Yeah, right.
I
Because
was
you have what you have Dave Goles, right? You have
Dave Bowles, Frank Oz,
yep.
Kevin Clash, Bill Beretta, Brian Henson, Steve Whitmire. And and when they were like brainstorming, I was sitting there and I full on think they thought I was just a PA. I was just sitting there probably waiting to get them something. I was just frozen, like I don't even know. You know, um, it was a master class, but I fell in love with it because I'm I don't really fit into Hollywood or Holly plastic. I'm not a I I've always struggled with film and television in that world. I just love the art form. Like I just love to play with the world. And so I didn't enjoy um auditioning. I mean, I dreamed of being on SNL. I think, that was a huge dream of mine. Any female comedian that does characters thinks that that's where they want to go, but they said they had someone that looked like me. So I was like, all right. My friend Paula Pell got a job on Muppets. Excuse me, on SNL the same time I got a job on the Muppets. And she got a job as a writer. And Paula Pell, is one of the funniest people on the planet. I mean, we did the Kathy and Mo show together. Have you ever heard of that? Mo
Mm-mm.
Gaffney and Kathy Jimmy did a 2-person show. It was called Parallel Lives. And Paula and I did it, just at an Equity Theater in Orlando. And then, I always think, I'm like, we're backstage in these huge angel wings going, I wonder how you make it, and then 3 months later, she's on SNL and I'm on the Muppets and we're like, you know? So I feel like if you just, I genuinely follow my heart, but I was way out of my league. I didn't even know what I was doing there, except for I just wanted to learn as much as I could. And I pick angel cards all the time, Caitlin.
Mm-hmm.
So the angel card that I picked for the day of my audition was adventure. And it's the angel with the walking stick. And I was like, okay, well, life's an adventure. So,
And it's been a crazy adventure since then. I mean, like, think of how much that has shaped your life right? You met was Paul your husband? Didn't you met him on, right?
Yeah.
On Muppets.
So here's something. This is crazy, crazy. So Paul Rudolph, so handsome, so kind. I was just like, we worked together, and he kept on writing parts for me to sing, because a lot of times the guys would sing falsetto, and I was like, I'm right here, I can sing that part. And in the recording sessions, he was the assistant musical director, I think he was. I don't know his official title, but he used to sit at the piano. There was a piano on set sometimes, because people would play live, like Ralph Sharon, Tony Bennett's musical director, played live on the set for Tony Bennett. Little Richard played live. Paul did drums for him. You should have Paul on your show. And he's a great interview. He's got great stories about music. But
I would want to talk to him about his stage show. Remember his stage show?
Glank.
Glank, yeah.
Yeah, Paul and I, we sat, like, sadly, is when you independently produce your own stuff, it's very hard, when you can't afford to do your show. So, like, it's hard for Paul to do his show. I'm barely doing my shows. But anyway, so meeting Paul was just, it was his first show too. So where'd you go?
I'm here. Wait, no, I'm here. I can't. I had to feature you for a second. You were telling a story. And I needed to look away. I needed to look away for a sec. For the people listening on audio, this is going to make no sense at all.
But I don't know. Sorry, you got me caught on a roll. Oh, here's one of my Jerry Nelson, right? Jerry Nelson would pick me a lot. I was always the last picked for right hands and stuff, but Jerry would have pity on me. It's like the last one picked in kickball. And he'd say, well, look who I have in my armpit. You've got those smelly men. And I'm like, I'm fresh, so. And I think I had the same, he had, his daughter had got her wings, and I was near the same age as her. So I think that kind of energy, we picked angel cards every day. And so I'm getting to a point for the Muppets. It was the Pierce Brosnan show, and there was this really wild puppet, and I loved her, and I saw her, and I picked it up, and she was in this gold lame. She had a barrel-shaped body. She had, sunglasses, a long nose, and she was fabulous, and I was playing with her. And I gave her the name Minnie Goldberg. And I had to put it down because the other people get to pick their puppets first for scenes. And Dave had gone to pick that puppet, and I was so heartbroken. But Jerry had seen me playing around with her, and he went over and he grabbed it and said, hey, do you mind? Les and I are working on something. And I was like, I was so shocked. I just was crying, because when you come see us on set, most of the fun happens before the camera rolls, because you're sitting, you're improvising, you're back and forth. And Jerry and I, who's like one of the greatest ever, got to improvise and be characters together. And it was such a beautiful exchange. And cut to Muppets Mayhem, and the character is, I was like, hey, it only took 23 years to do another character like that, but, and it was written by Adam Goldberg. How bizarre is that? I mean, talk about that.
Because you're doing Muppets Mayhem, right? So you play Penny Waxman and
Penny Waxman. Yeah.
So then how do you go from Muppets Tonight to Sesame Street? How do you end up as? Because now, I mean, let's be honest, Abby Cadabby has got to be one of the now most iconic characters on the show. I mean, you see Abby almost as much as, I mean, she's got to be the second most featured character on the show. No, certainly merchandising, she's got to sell, top 3.
I that's.
I know you don't pay attention to that stuff, but she's amazing. Abby Cadabby's amazing.
And I see Abby, like, we just went to the parks. Paul and I went to Sesame Place, and I was like, oh, there's Abby. And I had, I never think of it I never think of her as.
Wait, hold on. We can't skip that. Did that Abby know that you're Abby?
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
absolutely.
Because
I like.
how meta would that have been?
I follow the characters. I know how hard they work. The the Japan Abbeys, can I just tell you, their costumes are fierce. They're gorgeous, and they just love Abby over there. I just, Abby she's like a fairy puppy. Actually, I am a fairy puppy, and I'm Elmo's dog now, so it's like, and a fairy. I'm like, that's my breed. How perfect. But she I think, because she has her wings are dragonfly wings, right? So as a fairy, someone who loves fairy, dragonflies are represent transformation and transition, and they're able to go between worlds, the spiritual world and the real world. And Abby, what I love about Abby is she's between worlds. She's not really, she's multicultural in that sense. She speaks dragonfly, and like she flies within worlds, and she's a wish fairy. So that means that she's a heart. She's guided by heart, which can get, well, that always gets me in trouble sometimes, but not really. I mean, following your heart is really the secret to life, so that's why I love Abby, and I love the fact that she has a fairy garden, and I was always in the garden growing up because I had a lot of energy, you can imagine. Like,
oh, you didn't grow this energy as an adult? You had it as a kid the whole time?
oh my gosh. Like, and my mom, who's 95, she's got it too. Like, she's like Energizer Bunny. So anyway, so I it's funny because I see Abby, but I feel like she represents the part of me that is collaborating with my spirit, the part of me that is in love with, with art and animals and people's stories. Does that make sense?
Sure.
So, and she's also crazy.
Well, hold on. Since you mentioned crazy, I have to. I was gonna segue into Lolly from that, but we're gonna pause. I have to share a story that involves. It's my favorite life story, and I've told Leslie this. Everybody who knows me knows this story. So I was in New York City. I was on the subway, and I don't even remember who I was with anymore. I was with a friend who never. I was with a friend who never likes to ride the subway, and they were like, "There's so many crazy people on the subway." Whatever. I try to avoid it, but I'm like, "No, I take the subway all the time. Crazy people never bother you." And I remember getting on the subway, and it wasn't even a packed train, and we sat down, and you don't look at people. I mean, you people watch, but you watch, but you don't look on the subway. I think that's the easiest way to explain it. You're like, because if you make eye contact and it's a crazy person, you're now in it. So don't do that. So we're sitting on the car, and this crazy bag lady gets on the subway, and I know the crazy bag lady is there, but you no eye contact. So I remember I turned my body a little bit, and I'm like angling towards my friend, and I'm like, we're just gonna, like, this person's not there. Crazy bag lady sits next to me. Crazy bag lady sits next to me, and I'm like, oh my God, this is happening. And then hits my arm. So now I have to engage, and I turn, and the crazy bag lady was Leslie. And I was like, oh my God. But that is because Leslie has this, you at times, you carry those huge bags, because Leslie has, at any given moment, a bag of everything. Right now she has a fish, right? Her purse is like a fish that's like, I don't know, 3 feet long. I feel like
3 feet long. It's my purse.
It's like 3 feet long, and she goes everywhere with the fish.
And I have a passport to Oz in that fish. So,
well, I mean, if you're gonna go anywhere, why not go to Oz?
Right? Oh, I was looking for these glasses.
But yeah, but it was so, I forget, it was just one of my favorite stories, because you know, it's not, once you looked, that I realized it was Leslie, but you know, it's that moment where you don't pay attention to the person you're on the subway with.
Well, I have to say though, I was doing my show. I was working on a kid show, and I had to carry my characters in the bag because I had to
No,
go
I
to
know,
my.
that's what I'm saying. You obviously had, like, it's not like she was a crazy bag lady. She was just carrying a lot. And Leslie has a very
Unique
unique
style.
fashion.
Such a nice way to put it, because
No, it's fun. It's whimsical. It's
but
are
listen,
those fish shoes?
no, it's a
The
dragon.
dragon? They're dragons. It's dragon, absolutely. I saw the scales in the eyes.
Yeah, the other one is a unicorn. But I mean, but listen, I think about this. This is how much I love Paul Rudolph. He he must just be numb to it, because there's times I'll realize I have a fish bag, hat. This is just easy for me because I don't like to make an effort unless I'm in a show and I have to make an effort with my hair, but I'm almost always in a baseball cap, usually wearing something whimsical. And Paul holds my hand all the time. He even holds my hand when we walk Newhart. He's such a gentleman. And I often think that people must look and say, oh, look at that nice man keeping that crazy lady from running into traffic. She won't hurt herself. I was like, aren't you embarrassed to be seen? I mean, look.
I believe I've heard rumor that as you walk through Queens, people say, it's the fish lady.
Yes. I feel like a unicorn. I'm the
Did
fish
you
lady.
have a deer? I feel like there was a deer at some point. You used to walk around with a deer.
Yes, when I was on, okay, so I have a lot of, I get lost easily, and I'm very anxious. Like I've had a not so great thing happen in my life where I was taken, right? And so I get really anxious in cars, like cabs. I have to be able to get out. I When I first got to New York, I was really scared. I didn't know how to take the subway. I just am afraid to be lost, because once I'm lost, I don't know how to get back. Like my brain, I have perception processing disorder, so I can't figure out things if I can't visualize it. So if I can't visualize something, it's kind of tricky. So anyway, and so when I first got to Queens, I lived with my friend's parents. Not to Queens, but on is the brownstone of the Muppets, the carriage house, is that 63rd and 3rd or 36th and 3rd? I think it's 36th.
Oh.
I don't know, but
Now you're confusing. Yeah, I don't remember.
well, just so you know, I had to walk 30 blocks to work because I didn't have money for a cab and I was afraid to take a subway. So there's that, right? So then my friend that I knew, this lady when I worked at Disney, she invited me on the weekends to go stay with her because I didn't have any friends. And we went to a Kmart, and there was this big, beautiful plastic reindeer. And just to make my friend laugh, I thought, oh, I'm just going to carry this around the store. I'm like, this is my store puppy. Because sometimes you do that. You see something you like, you
Sure.
carry it around, just contemplating whether you want it. But this was a full-size plastic light-up reindeer. And so I'm walking around. She goes, okay, we're getting ready to go. And I'm like, okay. So I put the deer down. And this was just for my friend. I was like, you can't come home with me. You have to stay. No, I don't love you. And I just kind of like was trying to do a scene from a movie, like, go be free, So I was joking, right? So we walk up to the register and we're standing there, and all of a sudden I get this tap on my head. I'm like, that's not my head. This is called a shoulder. And the man turns around, and there's like the manager, and he's holding this plastic deer. And I'm like, I know I probably should have put it back. And he goes, I believe this is yours. And I'm like, what? And he goes up and he tells the cash register, and she goes, put this on my tab. This is your deer. It belongs with you. And I'm like, oh my God. And then I go, "What's your name?" And it said Mr. Fry. I'm naming this deer Mr. Fry. And so I took it home and I didn't know what to do with it. And so I just thought, I'm kind of scared. I'm anxious. So I'm just going to walk through New York with this plastic deer. So I did like 30 blocks and I walked to, this was for Muppet, this was for Dr. Seuss second season. And I was still doing stand up at that time. And I would bring it on stage, like I had it on stage with a lobster bib, and I would just bring it on stage and I'd tell a story and never make reference to it. I'd just put it on stage and I'd say, stay. And then I'd do my shtick and then I'd leave.
You're too anxious to ride a subway or take a cab, but gosh darn it, she's walking the streets with a full-size light-up Christmas reindeer. That's totally safe.
The Avalon coming out of the Frankie Avalon goes, "It's Rudolph." I go, "No, it's Mr. Fry. You're Frankie Avalon." It's Susie Mosier. I love her. I'm actually going up at Susie Mosier's on Tuesday. Susie Mosier has a variety cabaret show every Tuesday, and it's great for artists like me who can't afford to, put up their own shows. Like I do a show once a year, once a couple months or something.
You have a show coming up too, by the way, Moonlight Madness, October 21st.
Yes.
There's 2 shows, 1 p.m. and 7 p.m. That is mirror imaged some reason. Wait, or upside down. There it goes. So the green room.
Yeah, the Green Room 42, which is a new venue for me. Really nice. I love the Beachmen. I moved above ground. First time I've been not in a basement performing. Usually I perform under.
Congratulations.
Yeah. I mean, right before Sesame Street, I was under a gay bar in Silver Lake performing once a month, just emptying my brain, called Just for Fun, because Chuck McCann was kind of like an uncle, almost like my best friend, and used to hang out with me. And he was an old timer vaudevillian. His parents were in vaudeville, and like you brought like the variety show thing, and I feel like I was born at the wrong time. I mean, I have puppetry in my show and puppets, but they're characters. Sometimes I use weird things to tell stories, but there's some brilliant puppeteers out there who use the art form much nicer than I do.
No, you are definitely what makes Leslie great. Definitely the character work that you do. Like but I think that's why the puppetry works, because when you put that puppet on your hand, there's so much love and so much character and so much soul put into it that you say, "I'm not the cleanest puppeteer." All of that just goes away, because Jim Henson always used to say, when you watch some of his older interviews, he talks about how he's not the best puppeteer. That's why he wasn't a ventriloquist. If you think about the time when he was becoming big, it was all ventriloquists. And then you had a guy who just hid because he was like, "I can't, you're always going to see my mouth move." And
yeah,
and think about the voices too. If you think about the voices, a lot of people don't realize this, but Henson seldom changed his voice. Carol Spinney never changed his voice. Frank Oz, but you know who the characters are. When Henson was doing Ernie or Kermit, same voice, or Big Bird or Oscar, same voice, but the character that they give to that voice is what gives them that inflection. And then there's no mistaking when you hear Ernie or Kermit. The two can have a conversation and which one's talking, but it's the same. Miss Piggy and Yoda are the same voice. I just want to remind that, people, if you want to mess with your head, watch Yoda, listen to it, and then listen to Miss Piggy. It's the same voice.
Well, the same timbre,
Well, because they're putting the personality of that character into the voice, but they're not putting on a voice.
Yeah, I love the voice. I just think it's such an incredible instrument. I mean, I was fortunate enough to grow up in an area that the arts were affordable. Like I'm from Northern California, so I didn't grow up.
It's way cooler than Southern California, by the way, guys. I'm just saying.
Thank you. It's completely different, but we had a lot of like the park and rec department was actually bigger than the city I grew up in. So there was all these outdoor parks, there was theaters, there's programs that, like, even I mean, I taught after school programs. I started teaching drama when I was 16 at the after school programs, just helping kids create, um, tell stories and stuff. So, but we did all kinds of theater, like Sweeney Todd. I did the Beggar Woman, Little Shop, got to do Audrey, Pump Boys and Dinettes, Chorus Line. We did so many incredible, like, in productions, because there was lots of theater, and so I'm really grateful for that, because sometimes I feel like, gosh, I wish I was around here in New York, or I wish I'd gotten, but I really don't. I wouldn't change my path or my journey. I mean, certainly it would be great if I was better at social media, or if I thought about taping my first one person show, which was when I was 21, you know, but people just didn't do that back then. There was, like I said, there was no YouTube, there's computers. Nobody could afford a computer. Nobody had a cell phone, or like our cameras were disposable, So, I mean, those were the fancy ones.
I mean,
So
think about that. How
it's a miracle.
when we were younger, you had to, like, you would go and you would have this thing in your hand that could take 20 something pictures. Then you had to go someplace, drop it off to a stranger who was then going to look through your pictures before you ever got to see your pictures. And you hope that whatever you took looked good and wasn't dirty enough to where the person at the photo mat was going to be like, oh, what's Leslie up to?
My pictures are always weird, obviously, because windows, I'm taking pictures of my students dressed up weird, but it was great. It was just a time where you're in the moment, and you're really celebrating the moment and the people around you with just being there, not stopping, holding. So it's just a different vibe nowadays.
I feel that when I go to
It's a
concerts.
miracle I made it, because there was no YouTube. It's a miracle that I am even doing what I'm doing today.
I don't think it's a miracle. I think your character work, as I said in the beginning, is beyond brilliant. Beyond brilliant. And where I was saying that the other people didn't change their voice, you didn't have any voice. Like, you are amazing with your voices.
Yeah.
Like I don't know. I love you. I love your work. I just think it's great. And I want to talk about Lolly, which I've wanted to get to, and we keep getting sidetracked. You created this character, Lolly Lardpop. And it started, did she start as pipe cleaners? Was that her start? Because no. I have for the record, in my living room, I have the giant pipe cleaner dragon that you made, that everybody comes to my house and says, what is that? That is the coolest thing I've ever seen. And I'm like,
so
it weighs
better.
20 pounds and it's made out of pipe cleaners.
Something.
Yeah, that's crazy. If you guys are just listening to the audio, go to youtube.com, search Bad Chess Podcast just to see the visuals of these pipe cleaner characters. It's crazy.
I know. I pull out, what's Andy Warhol doing here? Jeez Louise. But Lolly's my Phoenix Rising. I had a short-lived show for the Disney company that was at the El Capitan Theater. I wonder if I have a flyer from that. Sometimes I keep that around. Oh yeah, I do. Look at this. Look at this.
That's cool.
At the El Capitan.
Wahoo Wagon.
Yes. I think I have. I don't know. There's a couple other ones. I have lots of buttons if anybody wants them in a poster. But I had a show, and it ran for, I think I want to say 6 months, but it was in development. And at the time, I didn't have any representation or anything. And so when you sign something, you think, wow, this is great. An animated series, because my cartoons and comedy album, wow. And they were like, you're like Tracy Ullman meets Pee Wee Herman. I was like, oh my gosh, this is a miracle. But it just didn't, it was a live show. And as usual in my life, nobody knew what to do with me, because I'm like, and I did a lot of improv, and Disney was like, oh, we got to be careful with the improv. So it kind of morphed into something that anybody could do, because they have to protect themselves. And then it just didn't, I had the best time performing it at the El Capitan Theater, and then they would show movies. It was just a blast. But when it terminated, I didn't realize the characters wouldn't come back to me. I thought it would take a certain amount of time before they didn't. So, and that was like, something I learned. I had a great time. I'm so thankful for Disney, because they took a chance on a nobody. I literally had been in the Muppets, which was amazing, right? But still, nobody knows who you are, right? And
Yeah, you
I
were total nobody. You were only in the Muppets. Total nobody.
No, but nobody, I was just kind of a weird fluke, honestly, really. I mean, it was like, again, I didn't think I would get cast on Dr. Seuss. I hadn't been to New York except for once during a theater tour where we went for family theater, and we went and saw Cats. We performed in Boston.
Total fluke. Muppets to Dr. Seuss to Sesame Street. It's
No,
just,
I mean,
it's an accident. She fell into it. She fell into Sesame. She was just walking down the street.
oh my God, you asked
Sesame
me
Street
how I
is
got
shot
to
in Queens. Sesame Street is shot in Queens, and she was just walking down the street and tripped and into the Abbey.
No, they
The
had
hand reached in.
auditions for Abby. I'm so sorry. We skipped over that. They had
No,
auditions
it's fine.
all over the country for that. I just happened to have the right energy that
She
fit
tripped, her hand fell right into the puppet, and it was just like think of King Arthur pulling the sword from the stone. Her hand went into the puppet, and it just, the Abby didn't come off. It just stayed there, and she was like, I guess I'm Abby.
So anyway, this next part involves Miss Coco Peru. And I'm not kidding. So after the Disney thing, I was Leslie Carrara, but during that time I was allowed to perform on, I was rated G, right? PG, but I used to still perform under the gay bar, and I used to do kinds of crazy things under Leslie Rudolph. See what I'm saying? So when that went away, I started, so I was Leslie Rudolph, and during that time I won a drag competition. Long story, but I just did. It was a fundraiser for, it was an AIDS benefit, which I'm very active in because I lived through the AIDS crisis, and watched my friends get their wings too soon. Anyway, I was, after the Disney thing, I was really nervous about performing because everybody expected all this whimsy from me. And my Auntie Irene, another in heaven, said, before all this, you were a singer. When I met you in San Francisco, you were a singer. You were a comedian, but used to sing. I used to sing with a big band. And I was like, yeah. She goes, so I want you to be in this cabaret, and I want you to get back to singing. I want you to just be you. And I was like, I was terrified. I was like, no one's going to listen. I'm going to be on stage. It's going to be weird. So I had become friends with Miss Coco, Clinton Loop, because we did a lot of the same AIDS benefits together. We kept showing up because I won this drag competition, and I said, what am I going to do? I'm so nervous. You're such a brilliant writer. Do you have any advice? And that's when Coco said, well, there's always suicide, or you can make a puppet. And at that time, Coco clarifies this on her show. There was reading a book of it, but I chose to make a puppet, and that puppet was Lolly. So I took that puppet to the cabaret, and my Auntie Irene had no idea. I said, I'm sorry, I'm late. I needed a sitter. And I'd already planned on singing the Candyman, but as myself. But I let, Auntie Irene goes, well, bring whoever it is out here. And I brought Lolly out, and she sang Candyman. But it took her like 20 minutes because she went through the audience looking through people's purses for mints and candy. So that's how Lolly was born. And that was 23 years ago.
Wow. The first
Yeah.
time I saw Lolly was you had done the Milano. That was my first. She made puppets of Milano cookies and had Lolly singing with Milano cookie puppets. I showed it on stream the other night. It was there you go. Milano cookie.
Well, John Kennedy helped me make these. So. Paper mache.
So you perform now with Lolly, right? You use Lolly, right, for kids and teenagers, teach them self-esteem issues and bullying, and
yeah,
I mean you're very passionate about that.
Yeah, she has no boundaries. First of all, when if I don't, because it's just me, and I started a company with my creative partner Jamie Donmoyer called Humor with a Heart, because we get a lot of asks that Sesame is nonprofit and our characters are preschool, right? So, my friend was working at a detention center with girls, and he's like, Les, I think they need to hear your story, because my story is deep, my smile is deep. And so I would take Lolly, I take Granny Dot, I teach them how to draw and cartoon, and so Lolly can go anywhere. I don't have to get permission where I take Lolly. She's she has a fairy drag mother like Coco, and lots of places. So like, she is an arts activist, and so that's why I have Lolly, because she can go anywhere. Also, too, she's a sock puppet, right? So when you take a puppet into a school, kids can look at it and go, I could never make that. That's too nice. Or that's, even kids play with Abby differently than they do with Lolly. When they play with Abby, they're like, really, she's a fairy. They're like, oh, it's like, ah. When they play with Lolly, it like, there's something on your face. Come here. Like but Lolly's a sock. But when kids play with Lolly, they go home and they make a puppet. They're like, I can make that.
Did you have Lolly? Can we see Lolly? Where?
Yeah, she's in her cosplay for tomorrow. She made her own costume.
You're going to Comic-Con.
Yes, tomorrow. Yep. I'm gonna be Dr. Finkelstein, which is so crazy. I made a mask out of pipe cleaners, and it's so painful. But I don't know if I'll wear it or not. And Lolly is. All right, I'm super excited. Wait, push down everything because I made it out of. That's who I am. Dun, 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 dun. Boys and girls of every age, would you like to hear something strange? Come with us and you will see. This our town of Halloween. Halloween. Yeah. This is hard to manage, this hair. It looks over conditioned, right?
You have this obsession with pipe cleaners.
And I look like you.
What is the pipe cleaner obsession? It never ends.
Well, the thing is, Leslie Finkelstein is made out of pipe cleaners, and so I just thought I needed to blend. And then this I made out of peel and stick. Because I'm wearing my sweater backwards. This sweater belonged to a Chihuahua. I fit in Chihuahua.
So I was telling Leslie before the show, we had Steph DeBruzzo on, and she says I'm an expert at candy and got every candy trivia question wrong. And I should have saved the candy trivia. I didn't save it, and it's my mistake. I would have loved to have had Lolly do candy trivia, and it's
so. Want to hear my candy rap?
Yes.
Red lollies, licorice and tamales, rocket pops, raspberry drops, cinnamon bear with fruit wrap pear, strawberry jello must be raw, watermelon taffy in my jaw, fire sticks for red hot licks is how I get my sugar kicks. Because my favorite kind of sugar is red. That was a patty cake thing. Yeah, the only kind of candy I don't like is nature's candy. Yeah, in fact, in our show, Moonlight Madness, Lolly has written the candy bylaws that she's going to make everybody adhere to.
Oh.
You have to come to the show. 7 o'clock is wide open. Matinee's filling up.
And while you have the puppet in your hand, just to explain to everybody, you talk a lot about right hand. I was this person's right hand. Somebody always picked these people. It's because when you do a puppet, right, you have one hand, that's the mouth, and the other is she's got a rod to control the hand. But how do you control the other hand? That's where the other person comes in. Or,
I don't need.
Leslie's making me a liar now.
Look, I'm self-hugging. Oh, it's so cold. I'm so cold. Stop it.
So that's a rod puppet as opposed to a hand puppet where, Ernie and whatever, that's a live hand. It's
a live hand puppet, yeah.
Yeah.
You need to get the experts on, but I do know that.
Yeah, no. I was just trying to explain so people, since we were talking about it in the video earlier, it can make sense now that you have a lolly in your hand.
Okay, stop it. Have a new face.
So the Milano video, Lolly gets all up in those Milanos, right? All over. You feel like because it's a sock puppet, you can be, as you said, not only do the kids play with it harder than you can play with it harder too, right? Because you could just go make another. There's only one Lolly. Wait, I'm sorry. There's only one. Wow, did she jump at the screen?
It's not true. I saw one of my heads around. And well, it's so funny you should say that. Don't listen, Lolly. I don't have ears. Okay, that's true. So I've had Lolly for 23 years, and I think there's been this particular Lolly. I think, Caitlin, you were at my first cabaret in the city. Like, yep. I finally got the courage to do my cabaret here because it was New York, and I was like, I don't have a Broadway credit. I'm not part of the cabaret community. So I was really anxious because I wasn't sure anybody would, even though I've been an entertainer for years, I didn't think anybody would come because, again, I'm a nobody here. And people just think like I love to tell stories. So I think of myself as a storyteller. If there's puppets in my show, they play a part. There's a reason for them to be there. It's so you want me to leave? Yeah. So one of the things for Lolly is I made a new Lolly, and that was in 2016. Was that my first 17? Maybe 2000. Yeah, 17 or 18. I don't know. Let's just say even 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23. So putting your hand in and out of a sock that has everything. So she started to stretch out. My finger was almost going through her. And I try to wash her in Woolite so it's really hard. So I got very thin. She put a new sock over my face. So I wanted to make a new Lolly, but I kind of got attached to this one because Lolly, when we went through, I'm a cancer survivor, and we went through COVID together. We went through outreach together. We've been through so much together that I kind of get attached. Like this Lolly has history, so even though I've had them, there's only been like 5 or 6.
I do enjoy that you were whispering about what you were doing to Lolly, so Lolly, the sock puppet, couldn't hear you. Listen,
my mom sends Lolly a birthday card every year. My mom.
What's Lolly's birthday?
It's Halloween. It's the National Day of Candy. October 31st. Ironically, Lolly doesn't know this, but Abby's birthday is October 21st, which is the day of our cabaret. But I'm not telling Lolly that.
I wouldn't.
She'd be bitter. So she's already bitter. There's restraining. There's lots of things. So but my mom sends $5 in an envelope and a birthday card to Lolly. And one time she called me up and she said, I didn't get Lolly's birthday card out in time. And I'm like, I just won't tell her. I won't tell her
does
it's not her birthday.
does
But my
Lolly have
mom
an age? Do we know how? Does Lolly know how old she is?
I'm 5.
Huh?
Well, I'll be 5 when I get another finger. Look at that. Look how tattered I am. Yeah. My friend Heather's making her hands.
So listen, Leslie, I told you on the show we like to also open it up to viewer questions, and but with a twist. With a twist, if you know, we play the game on this show where if a viewer or listener asks a question, we have to roll this D20 die as a knowledge check to see if you can answer your own question. So if anybody in chat has any questions, I mean, Leslie's an open book, and she loves to answer questions, especially if
I know the answer, especially.
By the way, a couple people in chat said, you know, I guess this one guy said his wife's aunt. After I met my wife's aunt, all I could hear was Chucky from Rugrats from everything she played in. So I'm guessing his wife's aunt does the voice of Chucky. You did a voice in All Grown Up, right? The Rugrat.
No.
I thought you did.
No.
Strike that from the record.
Yeah, Peg Puppy. I've been on Nature Cat. David Redman was gracious enough to give me a bunch. Splash and Bubbles, I both animated it, you know, digital puppetry. Did voices for that. That I got nominated for an Annie Award.
Have you won Emmys? Do you have Emmys?
No, I'm like the Susan Lucci of children's television. I'm super honored. I always feel weird because I feel like it's such a team sport. Everybody's great, but I've lost every single time.
You know, I don't know if you know the story or not, but I
either lose to Elmo or a human.
There's a lot of Emmys for Sesame Street that somebody else won for the work that I did. We're not gonna name names because it's become a running joke over the years. They never put my name down, even though it's my work. They always put somebody else's name down. So the joke is that person stole more Emmys from me than most people will ever see in their lifetime. Regardless. So there is a question about, in terms of, I'm going to phrase this differently than the question that was asked to me in message. They asked about, well, I'll just do it. Is there a difference between, you know, the ecosystem of working with the Muppets, working with Sesame Street, doing a puppet for Seuss? Like, as you change and move between different groups of puppeteers, does the way people interact with each other or the way the puppets work, does that change? And the dynamic of it all? But you don't have to answer yet. We have to roll to see if you can even, while you're thinking about it. Oh, it's a 19. You definitely know that answer if you know it. Do you feel like it's the same, like going from show to show or brand to brand? Like,
I think what this question is, it depends on where the show is in its development. Like you said, with Sesame Street, it's a well-oiled machine. So you're always the new person. And that, you know, there's Puppet Captain, that hierarchy. There's people that have been there. So, you know, you're working with these incredible, like the people on Sesame Street, those puppeteers are genius to me. So I was really shy around them because I have a different skill set, but it wasn't manipulation.
Although I would like to point out that at this point, the irony of us talking about being the new kids on the block is, at this point, we are some of the older generation now that's on those shows.
Now
I mean,
come in and it's a completely different thing because they come in already knowing so much, because there's puppetry classes, there's workshops, there's video, there's all these tools that they have now that help them understand what to do. Whereas me coming in 23 years ago, I had no clue. And it was on a show that, again, were with these giants. They don't have time to teach me or tell me what to do. It's like sink or swim, kid. If you're here, you better figure it out. So in that sense, in my personal journey, I had to figure it out, right? And now I think it's a little different. You know, it's just a little different. And I think also too, when you start a new show together, everybody's excited to be create and develop. There's a lot of collaboration. Like when we did Splash and Bubbles, you're kind of making up your character and the rules of the universe, right? There's a certain amount of stuff, but you can do a few more things. Same with Johnny and the Sprites. It was really fun. Johnny is a great leader in a playful environment. So I think for me personally, I pretty much am always the same. Like I never assume that. I just like to play. I really am a puppy dog. I really am. That I go in, I have ESP. I want to eat, sleep, and play. So I always start from a place of discovery, and I never assume that I know more than anybody else. So that part, and I think so. I think the answer depends on the individual and where they see themselves in that journey. I know for me, like when I'm in, you know, if I'm in a writing set, writing and creating or comedy or improv, there's certain places that I feel like I have a stronger skill set, but I don't know. I think it depends on the individual. Like, that probably didn't help.
No, look, that's the answer that you gave. I mean, so do you ever get confused on what personality goes to what character? Don't answer. Oh no, you don't know this. You have to actually make up an answer. You do not know if you ever get confused on what personality goes into the character. You see why it's fun now, right?
I guess so, because I don't know how it works though. What does that mean? I don't know the answer. I just don't know.
You don't know the answer. You have to make up an answer. Do you know, do you ever get confused on what personality goes to what character?
What? I don't understand the answer. The question.
Do you ever get confused on what personality goes to what character?
Like when I'm performing it?
Yes.
Oh. Well, I do, I do the Wizard of Oz. 2 minutes, right? So what I do is I have to hit a body stance, a certain thing. But if I've been doing Lolly, like I just did a tour with Lolly, and I was Lolly for 5 days, and I had to lower her, and she's a little more grating and nasal, and she laughs like I had to change Lolly's laugh. And then when I go to Abby, she's up here. And it's like you said, it's like it's the same of range, but Abby is just a little bit, and sometimes I don't know, so that is kind of tricky. If Abby and Lolly are right next to each other, that's tricky. So yes.
So that was an honest answer when you were supposed to give a made up answer.
Oh, I'm supposed to make a makeup one?
Yeah, I guess.
I don't know how it works. I never get confused. I'm a genius.
Yeah. What's funny is I just heard a little Granny Dot when you were going between Lolly and Abby. It kind of.
I know, and I had to lower that because I'm in the show, and I had to lower the song. So.
Okay. There's another question. Do you ever use one of the characters' voices and say a swear word? I'm going to roll the dice for this, and I'm going to answer this just to protect Leslie here. Oh, it's a 14, so we can answer it honestly. Back in the day, they used to edit together an outtakes reel of Sesame Street, if you will, for the rap party, which is some of the funniest stuff you'll ever see. But that was at a time when it was edited on a tape, like a physical tape that nobody owned a machine that could play. I mean, the machine to play it was thousands of dollars and tens of thousands of dollars. And you needed all this equipment to make it work. They do still do it sometimes, but they protect that because, man, could you imagine some of those videos getting out into the world? Because I mean, you can answer this for yourself, but I mean, when you get in the characters, and certainly the characters that are directing, they don't always leave their voice when they want to make a note or make a change because they're in that scene and they're in the voice, and so they just go. And I'll let you answer.
Well, I think that's why the Avenue Q people got their idea when they saw those things happen. I personally do not swear. I am really adamant about it. My shows are, I'm kind of a Mary Poppins meets Monty Python. I'm twisted and dark, but I do not like to swear. I don't
She
like
is
it.
rated PG. I mean, most of
I
your stuff is G. Most of your stuff is pretty G.
I can do double entendre, but I don't like it when people swear. In fact, for me, when I feel like a puppet swears, I just think that's lazy comedy. So there you go. I'm kind of a
That's why
snob.
she wasn't in Avenue Q. Because she was like, I don't need that shenanigans in my life.
Well, I didn't get called back.
So we also have the fun trivia game that we're gonna play, and maybe Newhart can play along too if Newhart knows the answer.
Okay.
So I, when it came time to do you, I always ask people in advance, do you have a fandom? Like, what are you good at nerd wise to answer questions? But for you, I think we have a unique opportunity to play a game of Sesame Street and Muppet trivia. And if you do well, if you get this right, Print Bills is going to win a prize. He's been in chat all night. He's very excited about this. Now, here's the thing, Leslie, just so you know, there's no pressure. Nobody has won. I think these trivia questions are pretty easy. Uh-oh, Newhart's going to answer. So that way, when it's wrong, you got to blame.
Oh, wait, hold on. Someone's here. Hold on.
Uh-oh.
Newhart. Hey, come on, Jeff. We're in the middle of a podcast.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I thought it was by
At the door. Hey, maybe you can be. If I don't know the answer, maybe you do.
Sure.
Okay. My friend Joe's here because he's gonna
Hi,
sleep.
Joe.
Hey,
He's gonna sleep. Can you
sure.
Yeah, he can.
You want puppet? This is my friend Joe. We've known each other forever. We were in a show at the Baked Potato together where we wore
That's right.
giant B-52 wigs.
Huge.
Huge wigs. Anyway.
All right. Are you ready?
Yes.
Question 1.
Oh my gosh.
The character who would eventually become Grover was first seen on what TV show?
Might be. I'm gonna say Laughing.
It was the Ed Sullivan Show, the Christmas Eve episode in 1967. That's original Grover.
Oh my god, that's amazing. Oh my
Which
god.
Muppet was the first to reach national stardom?
I have to look at it.
I
would say Miss Piggy. Oh, Kermit.
Kermit was the first, but the first to reach national stardom was Ralph.
Oh,
He was the
that's
Purina
right.
spokes dog in 1962 and then became a cast member on the Jimmy Dean Show.
I love those episodes. They're so good. Okay.
What floor did Bert and Ernie live on at 123 Sesame Street?
What?
What floor do Bert and Ernie live on 123?
Basement.
They live in the basement.
Yeah.
What is the name of Elmo's goldfish?
Dorothy.
It is Dorothy. Which human cast member did Barkley belong to?
I want to say Bob, but I think it might be Linda.
Linda!
I dressed as Barkley one year for Halloween.
As we discussed before, there were characters that did not appear on Muppets Tonight. Ralph appeared in only a single episode of Muppets Tonight. Who was the guest he performed with? By the way, this was because when Henson had passed, Ralph was his favorite puppet, and so that is why Ralph is now not seen as often or used as often as the other puppets. It was out of respect to him. Also, Ralph was the first nationally known one.
With on Muppets Tonight, the one
Muppets
I was.
Tonight. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, where's Paul?
He played piano.
I was gonna say, was it dueling pianos?
I don't remember. It was Garth Brooks.
Oh my gosh!
He played in the
Perfect.
Garth
He was
Brooks
one of
episode.
my favorite guests.
Leslie, I got a give me for you. What was the name of the male pig in Bay of Pigs Watch?
Hogselhalf.
David Hogselhoff as champ swimmer.
That's right.
In the early days of Sesame Street, who was the Count's partner?
The Countess. Or the Batty Bag?
Countess Darling von Darling. Ernie is most famously partnered with Bert, but in the 70s and early 80s, he would also feature with what shady character? My personal favorite Sesame Street character.
Want to play Val? No.
Yes. What was his name?
You know, hey, you want to buy a Val? Oh gosh. I want to say it's not Stupefying Joe's. It's Sherlock Hemlock. I can't think of it. I'm sorry.
Sherlock Hemlock was Jerry Nelson. Lefty.
I know.
Lefty was Frank.
Lefty.
By the way, guys, if you ever, as an adult, want to go back and watch the brilliance of that era of Sesame Street, watch Ernie and Lefty. Their bits together, legendary, just hysterical. What color were Snuffleupagus' eyes originally? Originally.
Like the pupils?
Yeah.
Ooh, I'm scared.
I would be.
I'm just gonna say green.
They were yellow and green.
Oh, I got that right. You should give me that looks like the Toxic Avenger, which, by the way, if that ever comes back to Broadway, please somebody tell him to ask me to be
You know, somebody said in chat that they miss Snuffleupagus being possibly imaginary. The reason they took that away was, if I recall correctly, it was because, Big Bird would always talk about Mr. Snuffleupagus, his imaginary friend, and people didn't believe him. It was real. And it was very important for Sesame Street to teach kids that when you need to tell an adult something, the adult should believe you. And so they didn't want that portrayed on the show, which is why they changed him to a real character, if I recall correctly.
Yeah, that is absolutely right.
I also like to point out to people the creepiest thing if you ever show up to the set of Sesame Street, not that any of you will, but if you ever did, Snuffleupagus is hanging.
Bag lady that lives there.
He is hanging from the light grid, right? Like in the back by like meat hooks up in the grid. Like,
oh, he's gassy. When I see the kids, when they tell the kids, I go, and I'm usually, if there's kids on set, I will grab Abby immediately. And I'm like, Snuffy sleeps. He retains a lot of gas when he's sleeping. So when he's not sleeping, man, you can hear it. When he's down on the ground, you hear a big old, that's for your listeners.
Well, listen, Leslie, honestly, it's been such a treat having you on. I want to remind everybody, October 21st.
Yes.
2 shows, 1 p.m. and 7 p.m. 7 p.m. wide open, 1 p.m. the tickets are almost gone. Green Room 42. She's above ground. She's not in the basement anymore. She said, I'm moving out of Bert and Ernie's apartment. I'm going up, moving on up.
This is a special show. Do you know why?
Why is it a special? Abby's birthday? No.
Yes. 1, I haven't done this show since 2019. That was like 5 weeks after my surgery. And 2, it's not just me. We have a cast. And 3, it's storytelling, but if you're a dog lover, it's very good. So it's kind of like, it's not your typical cabaret. It's a lot.
Where can people get tickets?
You can get them at Green Room 42 on the website. And also, I think it's really important to know there's a no food or drink minimum. So I'm new to the Green Room 42, and they set their ticket prices. So they'll have main dining room, premium, booth, ringside. They're all great seats.
Ringside?
Yeah, you can be like ringside, So, but what I'm just saying is that I move around a lot, so I try to give the love all over the place.
Does Lolly still go through people's bags looking for mints or gum? Or
he might. You never know what's going to happen at one of my shows. So one of my favorite shows, because this is my, if you come to the show, you'll understand more about me. It's kind of my coming out party.
Fair. I already know some people that have tickets to your show. Do.
Oh, Carolyn, probably. Is she watching?
Yeah, Carolyn is watching. Carolyn is my biggest fan. I love Carolyn.
I know. We'll get Carolyn a new part, and the dogs are probably watching too. So that's
Carolyn is a dear friend of mine and is the biggest supporter of this. Like, she watches every second of every one of these podcasts and will immediately, as soon as the podcast's over, she knows where I'm going. it's McDonald's for my dog. My dog needs his chicken nuggets because I
Oh,
keep him out of the room during the podcast. So he loves McDonald's chicken nuggets. I don't know how, but he cries for them.
Now I want chicken nuggets. Now that
And so we're gonna go get chicken nuggets, and she knows that we will be on the phone and critiquing this whole episode as soon as it's over.
good to have friends like that. I'm really appreciative of Carolyn because again, she got to know me for me, outside of Abby, and how hard it is to be an artist in this town. So it's just like the shows are hard to put up. The worst part is having to promote it. I hate it. I hate it. Liz Hara says, well, just, consider inviting people to a party. And I go, it's kind of true because our place is so small. We can never have anybody over. I tell these stories to Paul. He's kind of bored with them. He's wearing headphones. Newhart doesn't really comment anymore. So I just kind of go somewhere.
Do you tell the stories to Lolly, and Lolly just sits there and stares at you?
My brain. So it is kind of a party. It's my form of cookies since I don't bake, but I bake up some storytelling. So I hope to see you there. So
she'll be there. I will probably be there. It depends. I was actually supposed to be in Vegas for another show, but I don't think I'm going. So yeah. Well,
you should go to the show. I'm sure it's just probably as extravagant as your Vegas show.
Well,
I have
my problem is I have a farm, Leslie. Did I tell you I have cows and goats and chickens now, and it's starting to get cold. I live on a mountain, and I have to build a barn. You know the struggles of farm
you
life.
can bring a cow to the show if you want.
I don't think I can bring a cow to a show in New York City.
I don't know. Might be tricky. There's an elevator, is what I'm saying.
Fair. Well, between me and the cow, though, on the elevator, the weight limit might be might be over.
Oh my God.
Leslie, thank you so much for coming on. Listen, I'm not going to announce next week's guest.
To find this.
It's the Bad Chess Podcast. It's available wherever you get your podcasts. You can search for it on Spotify, Apple, iTunes, Odyssey, TuneIn. It's on the YouTube, sure, right on YouTube. Absolutely. Thank you so much. You want to promote me anymore? It's right on the YouTube.
How do we find you?
We're live on Kick all the time, which we are right now. I mean, it's just so many places. It's hard to mention them all.
Well, thank you. Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. And thanks, Chad, and everybody else. And look, next week we'll be back. We have another great guest, which I can't. The problem, Leslie, as you understand, is there was a writer's strike that was going on forever. The writer's strike ended. Now a bunch of people are going back to work, and then everyone thought the actors were going to be back to work. And now, as of today, does not look like it's going to happen anytime soon. Those talks broke down. So. Everybody has been on my show is now like, or that was scheduled is all like, I don't know what we're going to do. Because the person that was coming on next week was so under the impression that they were going to be able to plug something. And now they're like, I really might want to wait to see what's going to happen with the strike. And it's like, no, I understand. I get it.
Listen, that's live theater is bread and butter right now. Like outreach and all that stuff. That's what it's like, it's tricky. Oh, there is a SAG-AFTRA discount to my show. That's why I wanted to say it's SAG-AFTRA, all caps, 15. Thanks for
there you go. Oh, you're welcome. And that's Green Room 42. It's October 21st.
It's in
Hotel
Yodel.
Don't tell Lolly that it's Abby's birthday. All right. Thank you so much, Leslie. Have a great night. Everyone, thanks for watching. Thanks for tuning in.
Bye.
We'll be back next week. Take care.